Hello and welcome to this video about frequently asked questions. My name is David Greenwood. I work in the child abuse team at Switalskis.
How easy will it be for me to talk about what happened to me as a child?
It's not going to be easy to pursue a case of compensation for child sexual abuse. It's going to remind you of what happened, and every time we have contact with you, we'll probably remind you of it as well. But we're here as professionals to try and help you through it and support you and navigate the way through as easy as possible.
Who do I speak to?
If you haven't spoken to anyone at all, then definitely take advice from a solicitor first. The solicitor will probably ask you to speak to the police. Once you've spoken to the police, then you can speak to us again and we'll start to put together your case. The police investigation is the most important part of the case, so we do try and help you through that. We'll pursue avenues of compensation for you and we'll support you all the way through.
If I don't want to tell the police about what happened to me, can I still make a claim?
If you don't want to tell the police about the abuse, you can still make a claim. Our lawyers at Switalskis are trained to help find the evidence and gather the evidence and submit it to our opponent to make sure that you get your compensation claim paid. So there's no obligation on you to tell the police, although we do think it's a good way of having evidence gathered because the police have greater powers than we do to seize evidence.
If the police prosecute, will I have to appear in court?
If the police decide to prosecute, well, that's good news, because it means that the police think you've got a really good case. The police will want to take the case through to court and will probably need you to be ready to give evidence at court. In most cases, you would have to give evidence at court. In some cases, defendants plead guilty, meaning that you wouldn't have to. But where you do have to, there are measures that can be taken to make it easier for you, so you don't have to see the abuser in court. For instance, you can give your evidence beforehand via video, or even behind a screen in court, or from another room in the court building. So don't be too put off by the fact that you might have to give evidence. It won't be too traumatic in terms of having to face an open court of barristers and the defendant.
It happened a real long time ago. Can I still tell the police?
Even if the abuse happened a long time ago, you can still tell the police. In fact, most people don't come forward as soon as it happens. On average, people come forward 23 years later. So the police are well used to taking statements from people who were assaulted many years ago. So don't worry about that.
I'm a bit nervous about people knowing who I am. Can I keep my anonymity?
If you're concerned about your anonymity, don't worry, you are protected by law. No one is allowed to identify you as being a victim of sexual abuse. And if they do that, they are committing an offence and could go to prison. So don't worry about that. There are strict laws about that.
Is there any support out there?
In terms of support, you might be surprised. There are loads of charities out there whose purpose is to help victims of sexual crime. Some of those could be the NSPCC, the Survivors Trust and NAPAC. Look up those names online and they will have telephone helplines that can help you.
What types of compensation are available?
There are different types of compensation available to people who have been sexually assaulted. The first is a criminal injuries compensation claim. That's a government scheme to compensate victims of violent crime. The second is to sue the person who did it or their employer. That's called a civil claim. That's a case where we take a case through the civil courts. A solicitor will help you with that. There are also schemes that are set up for specific types of abuse. For instance, the Lambeth Council set up a scheme a few years ago, and a detention centre in the North East set up a scheme. Football clubs have set up schemes. So look out for those also.
You mentioned about claiming against my abuser. Is that possible?
If you're watching this video and you were abused by an individual, then it's possible that you could sue that individual. After all, they were the person that assaulted you. It's possible to sue the abuser directly. Many abusers don't have much money, so it's probably not worth pursuing them. But increasingly, we are finding that abusers do own houses, they do have assets, and are worth suing. So if you think that's possible, mention it to us, and we'll investigate that person and see if we can sue them. That's the best type of redress.
What if the abuser's dead?
If you're thinking about making a case and the abuser is dead, don't worry. It might be that there is evidence available to corroborate your account. There might be other people who are abused by that person, and we might be able to build a case so that you can get compensation.
What if my abuser was another child?
If you're thinking of pursuing a case and you find that the abuser was a child at the time, it's possible that you can still pursue a case, although the answer is quite legal and quite technical. If a child was the abuser, then we have to show that the child had capacity. If the child was over the age of 12, then they could be criminally responsible for their actions. So that's probably okay. Between the age of 10 and 12, it's arguable. But if the child was in a children's home, for instance, alongside you, and the staff knew of that child's propensity to do this kind of thing, but didn't take action, then we could sue the owners or the council that ran the home for negligence. Because if they'd removed that person earlier, the abuse wouldn't have happened. So that's a possibility.
If I receive compensation, will it impact my benefits?
If we are in the great position of having got you some compensation, don't worry about your benefits, you can keep them all. But what we have to do is to set up a personal injury trust. We would ask a specialist firm to set up a trust for you. You'd have to have one or two really trusted friends to be your trustees. They would look after your money and would give it to you as and when you need it. That way, it's not counted as money that you have when you are claiming benefits, so you'd keep your benefits. These are just some of the common questions that we get asked. If you have any more, please contact us.